Nobody's texting war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day.
That was Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth doubling down on his denial that any classified information, and most specifically war plans, were part of that leaked signal text thread. The Democrats aren't buying it. Here's what Senator Tammy Duckworth, an Army veteran, tweeted earlier today. Pete Hegseth is an effing liar. This is so clearly classified info he recklessly leaked that could have gotten our pilots killed. He needs to resign in disgrace immediately. We're not pulling any punches there, huh? So let's get some perspective from the experts. Joining me now are retired Brigadier General Peter Zwack and former CIA and FBI agent Tracy Walder. General, Tracy, thank you for both joining us. Been quite a week for you and your respective agencies and level of expertise. So let's do this. General, if we could start with you. Let's talk about what this really potentially could have meant if the Houthis were to obtain this kind of information, if they were to have access to these kind of intercepts. Talk about the risk to the soldiers, to the pilots. Where could this have gone?
First of all, we should not underestimate the Houthis. Yeah, they may be tribally based in Yemen, but they defeated the Saudi Arabians over a number of years, and they have integrated sophisticated first world military capability, especially in air defense. And so at home, playing a home game, they're dangerous, especially if they're forewarned. We've been at it with them for a couple of years, rightfully being careful, because the last thing you want to do is have an aircraft shot down over Yemen and then a Black Hawk Down type.
General, from what you saw in these texts, were these war plans? Were they attack plans? I mean, how would you? I think there's a lot of semantics going on here. So, from a practical standpoint, from a general that's been on the ground, what were the information? How would you parse the information that was being transmitted?
The Brig cover word is war plans. These are it's operational planning, it's details, it's mission plans. They all fall into the context of a war plan, which integrates all the different pieces with all the services and capabilities into one composite element. No, this was operational planning that got down actually to pretty low level. The problem is if they're picked up prematurely, yes, I think that the Houthis have proven they could get a shot or two effectively on F-18s and things like that. But also, our adversaries are watching and learning. And that is maybe the biggest takeaway on this, because we've had a real Chinese, Russian, Iranian look at us, our command structure, if you will, decision making, admittedly at a early phase for the new administration, maybe in the putting a silver lining on something pretty ugly. It's a lesson learned.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Now, Tracy, very few folks have a resume like yours. CIA, former FBI, you've kind of been on the front lines with both those agencies. Look, your take, what does this actually mean? And a little bit in terms of, does something like this rattle the rank and file within agencies like that?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to take your last question actually first. It definitely does rattle us. The reality is if I did something like this on Signal and leaked this kind of information prior to an attack happening, I most likely would have been fired. That is not something that you are allowed to do. Obviously, I did a lot with drones and targeting when I was at the CIA, and that is not information that you go back and forth with on a platform like Signal. You just don't. So that's kind of the first question there. The second one, from a CIA perspective, when I recruit human assets, they are trusting me to keep them safe. The whole goal for them is they don't want to die in giving me information that could save American lives. And when they see something like this, I really feel they will be less likely to want to spy for us. It makes sense. Also, we've kind of shown all of our cards with how we feel about Europe within the administration, and you don't want to do that. That's a huge negotiating tactic that you really want to have.
Tracy, that's a great point. So let me ask you, just does it make is it your thought that it would make our allies hesitant potentially in terms of sharing information, knowing that that this is how we're transmitting it internally?
I would imagine this would especially give the group called the Five Eyes, quite frankly, the biggest hesitation in sharing information, because we do share information pretty continuously, quite frankly, with them. And the understanding is it's not shared or mishandled. And so I think it would give them a tremendous amount of pause, and really rightly so, quite frankly.
Sure. General, thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Tracy. I mean, I've worked in several Five Eyes skiffs downrange, secret compartmental information facility, intel facility. And, you know, you got Australians, and you had New Zealanders, and you have Brits and Canadians, our allies, the Canadians. And this is all about trust, especially if you're downrange and you're really, really relying on each other. And yes, screw-ups happen. But it's so important that if we do it and we kind of know it, we've got to take responsibility and then work to clean it up. And you bring in your allies close and assure them that we've got our eye on the ball.
So if I could, that is great insight on the content. Let's talk about Signal for a second, because you've both been in high security, confidential areas. What is Signal used for? It wasn't used in the CIA or the FBI. Does the military use it? Obviously not for this type of maybe content going back and forth, but is there a place for an encrypted platform like Signal within communications? Tracy, sorry, I'll go to you first.
I believe so, actually. I don't have any issue necessarily with officers, folks in the military communicating really kind of day-to-day functions, right? Just, you know, administrative functions on Signal. It is an encrypted chat, but unfortunately we know it's been penetrated, right, by the Chinese, the French, the Israelis. So I think to have those mundane conversations is actually perfectly acceptable, but they really should know better. And, you know, as General Zwack was saying, I fully agree that this is about trust. And if you're not using the systems properly and how you communicate at a very basic level, that's problematic. So no, I don't have an issue with Signal.
General, on the military side?
On the military side, it is a device that can, as we all have learned, that you can call and communicate in an encrypted form. Encrypted does not mean classified.
That's right.
And I think that's where everybody is getting it wrong. And the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians are Signal and are Signal aware and can, if they know the link and all that, they can find a way into the listening to the dialogue.
Well, one thing's for sure, if they were Signal aware before, they're probably Signal subscribers today. A retired Brigadier General Peter Zwack and former CIA officer Tracy Walder, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.